I was driving to work yesterday, right? And I saw something that hit me a little bit harder than expected. Um, Yesterday was Sunday, Mother's Day. So, as I'm driving to work, I see, I drive past a few churches, and I drove past this one church, and I just saw all of these guys taking either their wives or their mothers to church and walking in. They were crossing the streets and things. The moms had on all white. It was a beautiful thing. And when I saw that as I'm on the way to work, I feel like it did something to my heart where I'm like, it put me in remembrance, right? Um, and what it put me in remembrance of is really one of the many reasons of why it is that why I even have the aggressive dedication to want to like come out of this debt and do things right and build a foundation and all of these things, right? And it put me in remembrance of the fact that my mom, right, like coming from a like basically coming from the hood essentially, like, and growing up, as I get older, I realize just how challenging it can be to really survive, right? How challenging it can be, especially to survive with a kid. And right now, as it stands today, I'm hanging on by a thread. And so it's like, if I also had to do this with a kid, it's like you might as well just put me one foot in the grave right now. And that's how I really feel, because it's like I feel like I'm barely figuring it out, you know what I mean, by a hair. And it makes me really kind of have a full circle of perspective of maybe what my mom was going through, or my dad, my parents. But for this video, I'm just going to specifically stick with my mom. What she went through raising me, because I imagine, like, because as long as I can remember, I've always had a roof over my head. I've never went hungry. I've never had any. Now, don't get me wrong, like, I couldn't get all the newest Jordans and the latest clothes and all that stuff, but I'm talking about from a survival standpoint. We were living this was an expectation for me. Like, I was trying to push the ball even further. Now, in hindsight, I realized I was trying to push the ball even further with the Jordans and the clothes and why we can't get this. But I assumed that I never really questioned the roof over my head. I just always assumed that it would be there. It would magically just always be there. And man, it just makes me really appreciate, I guess, the older I get, the more I appreciate the people who really played a role, like, including my mom, because my grandmother played a big role too. But like, appreciate the women and the people and the people who really got me here, because it ain't easy. It is not easy, man. And I say all that to say, the reason that I feel so aggressive in wanting to really get out of this hole that I created, to get out of this mess and just be able to put myself in a new position, is because I want to be able to pour back into that, right? Like, as we get older and I see my mom kind of like, you see these things where it's like she needs help with different stuff. Maybe sometimes it's small, maybe sometimes it's big, but you know what I'm saying? Right now it's small. It's at those small things where I'm seeing, oh man, one day she might really need to depend on me for something, and I want to make sure that I am in position to be able to catch that. Like, for example, one of the things that I think about a lot is in scenarios like this. When one time my mom had one of her windows broken on accident at her house, right? Like, I don't know if kids was throwing rocks or something, but she had like a double pane window, and the outer pane was broken. And we found out after calling like 3 people that it would cost about $400 for the window to get fixed. And I didn't have it, you know what I mean? And I just didn't have it, you know. And it's not that she didn't have it, it's the fact that I felt like I should have had that. Like I should have been able to, you know, say, hey mom, like this is one thing you don't have to worry about. You can keep your $400. I'll cover it this time. You know what I mean? And so it's like, in her eyes, it's probably, she's probably looking at it like her problem, like, hey, I'm gonna get it fixed or whatever the case may be. But what she don't know is that I'm like suffering internally, like, man, you know, like I'm getting older now. Like I should be able to have something to pour back into my mom with, you know. Like I should be able to cover these things, some things, you know. Like I want to be able to not have her go to work or whatever the case may be, just as that thank you that would never repay. At the older I get and the more I realize what she actually did for me to get here, what she actually probably, the challenges and tribulations that she probably faced, while also, right, most important thing, while also still developing herself and not dropping the ball on me. You know what I mean? Like, this is the main thing that I realized as an adult now. Like, my mom, because my mom had me, I think, at like 20 years old. So I'm 30 years old and I'm hanging on by a prayer. You know what I mean? I'm hanging on by the grace of God, you know? Like, God has literally had his hand like, yeah, son, I'm not gonna let you fall. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I'm 30 years old and I'm hanging on by a thread. My mom had me at 20. At 20 years old, I was still like very much infant minded. You know what I mean? Like, I have no interpretation of anything except for what I see on MTV and YouTube. You know what I mean? Like, but so to really imagine having to also have a kid and parent a kid, right? You're a kid, you know, and you're parenting a kid. Just something that I couldn't imagine, right? Something that I took for granted, not because I didn't know, but because I was a kid. I didn't know how to appreciate these things. But as I grow older into an adult, I just realize more and more. I just feel a weight. I don't know. It's probably because I'm a man. It's probably a man thing, but I just feel a weight of like that timer clicking. Like, man, you need to get yourself together. Like, you really need to get things together so that you can, you know, be able to be supportive. Because it's kind of like that feeling, right, of, like, let's say when you are a kid and you go to like the family barbecues and things like that, and you know you going around playing with your cousins and y'all having a good time playing basketball or whatever the case, and your uncles and everybody is the ones cooking the food and all these different type of things and making sure everybody's straight. Again, an assumption you just feel like you just pull up to. You just, hey, what's the address? I'm showing up, and everything is already ready. The plates is already ready. I can go get me a plate. It's already done. But as you get older, you know, I'm starting to realize as I get older, there comes a time where we become the uncles and we have to make sure the stuff is good, and we have to make sure the barbecues are, you know what I'm saying, done and ready, and the plates and the food is ready to go for the even younger generation. And so this is kind of the transitional stage that I'm in right now, and I'm looking at it like, man, you know, I'm not where I need to be. You know what I mean? Like, I need to really stop playing around, stop trying to find a shortcut, and really just come face to face with everything that I need to do, because I feel like it honestly kills me a little on the inside every time a scenario happens where it's like, it's still small, but you see that gap slowly growing of impact of the situation, and it kills me a little inside every time when I feel like I see my mom going through something, even if she can handle it, right? Like, I don't think I've seen my mom in a situation where she couldn't handle something, but I'm just saying, you see the wire being stretched thinner and thinner and thinner, and I want to be able to get to a point where I can come in and supplement that. Like, you've done enough. Like, she's done enough. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing else to prove except for whatever she's working on internally between her and God. But I want to give her that state of comfort where she can know what it feels like to actually, you know, have that. And not having to be worrying about whatever it is that she's worrying about, you know, because I feel like that's the least that I can do. Because again, I feel like nothing will ever repay whatever it is she did to have me at 20 and still, you know, raise me the best she could. And so I feel like all of the, maybe not the logical words, but the feeling of remembrance that I get put in when I was on the way to work yesterday and saw all those moms going into the church. Yeah, it really affected me. It really made a deep impact on me in that moment, and I felt like I gotta process this later, you know, because I'm on the way to work, and I'm noticing that the why is changing, you know, or has changed. To the point where it's like, let's say before if I would have had my foot on the foot on the gas, and I'm going to work every single day to, you know, try to get as much money as possible, it would have been for money's sake. At 20, 25, you know what I'm saying, it would have been for money's sake. I gotta have the most money possible, even though I'm spending it irresponsibly. But now it's more so like, no, I gotta learn actually how to get the money, and now how to keep the money and not let it come back out once it comes in, so that I can be able to be a blessing to people like my mom, to people like my grandma, my sister, you know, my dad, and, you know, just be a resource instead of a, you know, expense or a liability, or it's cool, you can come here and stay for free, it's fine. You know, it's like, I appreciate all the things that everybody has been able to do for me, and all the blessings that I have been able to get, and the breaks that I have been able to get. But it's time, like, you know, like, as a man, I feel like my spirit keeps telling me it's time. It's time for you to really step to that next level as a man and be a foundation that others can stand on. You know, I feel like as I get older, I realize just how much more and more this world really just does not care about you. You know what I mean? Not because they're intentionally looking for you to not care about you and say, hey, you ain't nothing, you know what I mean? But I feel like you just learn as you get older, like, hey, if you drop dead today, the world keep going. It don't stop. You know, like, even if you've ever been to a funeral and then you go to the repast, after people go to the repast, they catch up. The funeral is sad, the burial is sad. They go to the repast, they catch up with family, and then everybody goes back to their normal life. That's just the circle of life. And so in a world like that, as I get older, I'm realizing just how much I need to appreciate the people who are actually on this earth, who specifically love me with intention, right? Because it's not a lot of it out here, and some people never even, you know, understand that, or some people never even get to even feel the love of having a grandmother or a mother or a parental system, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, people have different scenarios to where it's like, I'm blessed to have my grandmother in my life. I'm blessed to have my mom and my dad, you know what I'm saying, in my life, even though, you know, they weren't together while we, you know, they not together or anything, but it's like I still have access to all of those people. I still have access to be able to stay at my grandmother's house. I want to repay her for that. I want to be able to show her, like, you know what I'm saying, this is what your contribution turned into. Like, I have to be able to produce that, and the older I get, it's just eating away more and more at my soul. Like skip whatever, going to the club, if it, you know, like, if it means not going to the club, so be it. If it means having to read books, so be it. If it means learning how to delay gratification as long as humanly possible, so be it. If it means that I gotta learn how to whatever, so be it, because my spirit is ready. and it is ready to be this to the people that I love more than it's ready to live in the comfort of, you know, not doing these things, you know. And I feel like this randomly circles back around, you know, on my spirit, to where it's like it just stops me in my tracks. Like, I don't know, like it just really, once it circles back, boom, it's like I have to stop and I have to meditate on this, because, you know, really just I've learned in life that it's all about your underlying whys. Yeah, it's all about your underlying whys. You have to know why. You have to be clear on why you're doing something, because you can produce the same result, but you know, you can get the same outcome, but if the whys, you know, the whys are different, you know, or not if the whys are different, but you can pretty much get the same outcome, but with different whys. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sitting here going to work, and I've been willing to work hard my whole business life. You know what I mean? I've never been shy of hard work, but the whys were different. 5 years ago, the why was I got to get as much money as possible just so I can have as much money as possible. No other plan outside of that. Like, I'm starting a business, all this stuff is just to accumulate as much cash that I can see in my bank account. And I just started learning about investments like a few years ago, like as far as investing in properties and things like that. But now the why is to be able to be a foundation, you know, and that why means so much more to me, and is so much more impactful to my spirit, coming from this place, you know. And when I seen those moms going to the church, and how, you know, it's like had seen them in all white was really very symbolic to me. Like, I honestly don't know why they wear white or whatever the case, but to me it just symbolized them as a pillar, you know. Like, right now it's time to appreciate the pillars of the community, you know. And by them having on all white, it symbolizes to me, in my eyes, like the importance, the necessity of these women. And I have my own, you know, impactful women in my life. And so that's why this Mother's Day kind of hit, you know, it kind of hit me a little bit harder. And the crazy part is I think all these things all the time, and I feel all these things all the time, but I feel like when I speak to my mom, or when I speak to my grandma, you know, or anybody like that, they don't really know that this is how deep I'm really thinking about it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I be overly sentimental with it. Like, you know, like I see my grandma, like, wash a dish, and I just be like ready to break down. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy, because the older I get, the more I feel like I'm really understanding that you have to appreciate life while you got it close. It's not about having 1 million cars. It's not about even having $1 million, because you can take none of that to the graveyard, you know. And now I'm realizing it's not about having stuff, but being able to be a resource, being able to do something like to buy your time back, so that you don't have to work 8 hours, 40 hours, 50 hours a week, and actually buy your time back so you can spend more time with those that you love, who are not going to be around forever. To me, I feel like that is now the ultimate goal. So yeah, I just wanted to get that out, man, before I moved on to something else, and then I go in 100 different directions, because my brain will go in 100 different directions. But that's all I got for right now, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.